Last episode, we completed this massive farming area for our ultimate villager island. And with that complete and the harbor area complete, we are now left with this kind of empty space off to the right. So today I figured it would be a good idea to fill it with the mining district. This is where all of our blacksmith type villagers will live. And this is where we're going to store all of our stone type blocks, like stone itself, cobblestone, granite, diorite, andesite, you get the idea. But we're also going to have this area be the entrance to our new strip mine. Now, I don't think we'll get to actually building the strip mine in today's video, but we're at least going to tackle the above ground portion of this. Now, I don't really have a plan for the order in which I want to do things today, but I know for a start, I want to defeat the Ender Dragon. So we're going to begin by finally completing our netherite set of armor, throw some netherite on our boots, and on our helmet as well. Get me that nice cover me in debris achievement. I like the way this looks. We're also going to take a lot of our remaining gold and use that to craft up some more golden apples. That way we can get regen. We're going to make ourselves a new shield as well. And heading over to the farming district, we are going to steal one of these pumpkins that we're growing and use it to make a jack-o'-lantern so we can throw that on over our heads so that we're safe from Endermen. Now, I've mentioned this a few times at this point, but I still am feeling very unsafe in this world. I think losing the last hardcore world has really given me a decent amount of PTSD, so with this Ender Dragon fight, I think I'm gonna go a little bit overboard. I'm actually gonna head out to this plains biome here, and I haven't slept for a few days, so some phantoms should start spawning soon. And I absolutely hate dealing with phantoms, but I need their phantom membranes to make slow falling potions. Yeah, dude, phantoms are definitely... What, dude, they're just one of the worst additions to Minecraft, but this is a really useful potion. And I'm just now realizing that I don't have any nether warts, which means I need to go back into the nether to find another fortress. Yeah, okay, just give me a second. All right, I finally found one. I'm also going to collect some blaze rods while we're here, so we can get blaze powder to use as fuel in our brewing stands. And you know, while I'm here, I think I'm going to hunt and try to collect some wither skeleton skulls. I don't need these for the Ender Dragon fight, but I would like to make a beacon afterwards because there's a lot of terraforming we're going to have to do in this episode. So getting access to haste would be... it would just make this process so much easier. You know, I've been here for longer than I'm willing to admit. But anyways, I think we got a pretty good drop rate of wither skeleton skulls. It's just that this fortress was not spawning them very frequently, so I mean, I spent a good 4 to 5 hours here. It was absolutely ridiculous. But with the skulls collected and the nether warts acquired, it's time to start heading home. I'm also just gonna keep breeding up our sheep as we go along, and we might as well do the same for the cows. But alright, returning home, we're going to throw our wither skeleton skulls into this chest here because we're not going to be using them yet. But I also spent some time in a warped forest killing some endermans, so I took some of those ender pearls and threw them together with some blaze powder to get ourselves the eyes of ender that we're going to use to find and activate the end portal. Now we can just head over to our brewing stand, throw in a nether wart to get us an awkward potion, and we're going to follow that up with a phantom membrane to get us the slow falling potions. And I also think I'm going to throw a piece of redstone on here to make sure that that slow falling lasts longer. And with that, our alchemist, the brewing portion of the video is over and we can move on. Now, another thing I'm going to need for this Ender Dragon fight is a bow of some kind. I would like to get infinity on it. First enchantment, so we get just power 4. That's, yeah, horrible. I don't know, my luck has kind of been hit or miss in this world with enchantments. I don't know how I feel about that. But let's make up another one here, see if we can't get infinity. We'll give it another shot. Nothing. It doesn't look like we're getting anything good out of that. I might as well just think I might re-roll and punch 1. I just did a 3-level enchant for punch 1. Okay, bow number 4. Give me... I really just want something good. Unbreaking 3 and infinity. Okay. That's really all I wanted. You know, we got power 4 on it too, so we're going to throw these guys together in our anvil here. And of course the anvil breaks, so I guess we're making a new one real quick. There we go. Let's throw that down and then get all of these guys together in our new anvil. And power 5, punch 1, unbreaking 3, infinity bow. that will definitely do for our first Ender Dragon fight. I'm also going to take a bunch of grass blocks with me just to mark out where we've been, because we're probably going to be traveling to a bunch of different end islands as well. And I'm going to run back over to the farm here, and I'm going to use a bunch of the wheat that we've been collecting to get us a ton of bread. I'm kind of low on animals right now, so I don't want to kill any more of them until I rebreed them and get their numbers back up. So although it's not the best source of saturation and regeneration, we are going to run with bread as our main food source for this Ender Dragon fight. But with that, it's time to set out. And it looks like the Eyes of Ender are leading us out into the ocean in this direction, so we're just going to start heading way far out. And I think, oh, there it goes. It goes straight down. Does that mean, I think that means that we're right above it, right? Yeah. I see something. What is that big bulging structure? Is this the stronghold? Do we have some kind of weird terrain thing going on here? Hold on, let's dig in and see what this is about, because I've never seen this before. Well, I can hear mobs. Oh my god. It is the stronghold. This must be a little bit of a problem with tectonic then. Bit of weird terrain generation. That is mildly annoying, but we'll work with it. Alright, let's explore this a little bit, see if we can't find the portal. Immediately we're finding a library though. I do like these places. I think they're pretty cool. Aren't there supposed to be chests everywhere though? Why can't I can't seem to find any. Oh, here's one. Okay, Curse of Vanishing. Not interested, but we did get an eye armor trim, which is pretty cool. So I'll take that. And then there should be another chest up here, which, where is it? Okay, it's in the corner here. This has some interesting things. Another armor trim. Frostwalker 2. Okay. Again, Frostwalker 2, Fire Protection 3, and Fortune 2. Those aren't bad books, but I don't have space for them, so we're gonna leave all the books and the trim in this chest and just remember, or at least try to remember. I'm definitely gonna forget they're here, but we'll come back for them eventually. But with that, it's time to get all of these Eyes of Ender in the portal frame. And off we go into Minecraft's deadliest dimension. Go, Ender Dragon has been defeated. It feels good to be back here, man. Well, I mean, I'm not looking forward to bridging over the void, but it feels good to be in what is considered endgame Minecraft. We're just gonna scoop up the egg real quick, and then we can go out and start looking for some shulker boxes. Yeah, this is definitely this part right here I have not missed at all. Alright, I'd say that was a pretty good success, so it's time to head home here. We got 26 shulker shells, which is not bad. I would have liked to have gotten more, but for now, that's probably going to be more than what we would need. And with the sun rising on a new Minecraft day, it's time to move on to the next portion of this project, which of course would be quickly gathering some obsidian and then heading right back out to the end. And like I said earlier, we're just going to clear out a little block underneath of the end portal here. We'll throw down that obsidian we got and pair it with a very peculiar shaped stack of soul sand, activate the wither, and then defeat it like it's nothing. And just like that, we have another star for a beacon. And we got a really cool invulnerable wither head, which, if you guys don't know, is a part of another mod that I have installed that adds a bunch of different mob heads to the game. They don't grant you any special abilities or anything. They're literally just for decoration, but I figured maybe in the future, something along the lines of I collected every head in Minecraft would be a cool video title. I mean, just look at this menu here. There are literally hundreds of them, so maybe that is something we save for a future project. But anyways, we're just going to head back to the overworld and get that beacon crafted up. Now we're going to start heading back over to where we're going to start building the mining district. Did a horse drown? I know I was gonna say, I know skeletons spawn on them, but I thought that maybe it had to be during a rainstorm or something. I don't know. Fortunately, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. But anyways, we're heading up to the mountains real quick because I need to search these areas for some more iron because we need to be able to fully complete the beacon, and I have finally run out of iron. I don't have enough anymore, so we need to collect a bunch of that. Alright, and using our fancy schmancy new shulker boxes, we have got a bunch of stone, cobblestone, and we have almost 5 whole stacks of iron ore, which is absolutely insane. So we're going to be taking that back down to the base, breaking it up, and seeing just how much we get. Everybody, leave your guesses in the comments right now. Tell me how much iron you think we're going to get from this stack of ore. And the answer, almost 10 stacks. That's insane. That should get us all the way through, maybe. I don't know, we might be a couple blocks short, but we'll see. Now I just gotta spend the next couple of minutes getting this all smelted in the blast furnace. Alright, so we ended up with 2 stacks and 33 blocks of iron, which annoyingly, I believe, is just like 3 to 6 blocks short. I think a full iron beacon requires 2 stacks and either 36 or 39 blocks. So that's incredibly annoying, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to search all of our other chests around the world, and I definitely have some iron hidden elsewhere, so I just have to find it and we should be good to go. So let's come to the top of the hill here, right next to the wheat fields, and we'll start building up this beacon. I love the sound of beacons powering up, dude, and it's especially satisfying. I don't know, just the first time you load one up in a world, hearing that noise is just perfect. One of my favorite parts of the game. But let's throw an emerald in there and get ourselves haste 2. And now it's time to start terraforming the mining district. And while we do this, I'm going to address the comment of the day, or rather the comments of the day, because a lot of you guys were pointing this out. But at the end of last episode, I talked about the possibility of installing custom resource packs to change the colors of certain types of leaves in the game. Most notably, changing the dark oak leaves to be red and the birch leaves to be yellow. And so I've been spending a lot of time thinking about what I want to do with this, but a lot of you guys pointed out that the resource packs I had in the last video really didn't work. You guys pretty much agreed with me in what I was saying, in that the leaves were too bright and the trees that I made almost kind of look like Christmas trees, not like they had fall leaves on them. So one of the things I'm considering doing, and the thing I think I'm going to do, is actually use a shader pack to change leaves when I want to get specific visuals. In fact, BSL shaders actually have a season setting where the leaves will change colors depending on what season it is in the resource pack and shader pack. And this was brought to my attention by a YouTuber named Witty, so a quick shout out to him. He's also got some really cool videos on his channel, and right now he still has less than 1,000 subscribers, so go give him some support because he's a really good builder and I like the stuff he's got. But yeah, anyways, I think I'm going to refrain from using custom resource packs for now to change the leaves and possibly rely on shaders, something that is more consistent and fits the theme of the world a bit better, but we'll see as time goes on. Anyways, back to the video. Alright, that beacon was definitely a lifesaver. This actually only took me about an hour and a half of mining to get this entire hill gone, but this looks absolutely insane. It looks a little weird right now because the terrain is all flat and I haven't worked out all the details, but this is a really good start and is going to give us a good idea of what we're going to be working with. And I mean, just standing against the wall here, let me zoom the camera out. You can really get a feel for the scale of this thing. It's just absolutely huge. But we're actually going to start making this thing even bigger by marking out another area for a lower section of the mine. I want this to have about 3 levels to it. That way we can have a bunch of things that are visually interesting going on. Like, I'd like to have the top level be primarily residential buildings and things. The secondary level be forges and whatnot, places where all the ores are actually getting smelted down. And then finally, the lowest level is going to be where all of the mining takes place, and that is again where the entrances to our strip mines are going to go. And I think that's a decent shape to start with. Trust me, this will look a lot better when it's done, but let's keep going. But now we're gonna head back to the starter base for a quick minute and get a bunch of tough blocks using our new shulker boxes. I'm so happy we have shulker boxes again, man. I needed this storage so bad, it's not even funny. But anyways, we're going to gather some tuff. We're also going to take all the andesite we can get our hands on as well, because we're going to be needing that. And I'm going to finally be using all of the wool that we've been collecting from the sheep farm, because we need some light gray wool as well. And I'm going to be using the light gray wool to create highlights on the rocks. So hopefully that will look good, a way to simulate light. What the f was he doing? Why? Okay, wait. Speak, bro. Why are all the animals in this world tweaking out, man? They all have issues. It was the dolphin last episode. It's the skeleton horses this episode. For some reason, it seems like they all like to show me what kind of tricks they can do. But anyways, let's kill some of these squids, get some ink sacs for black dye, and then we'll combine that with white dye to get light gray dye. And then we'll dye the wool. Lots of dye. There we go. We got a good bit collected. Now let's just make all the dye. I need to find a different word to describe what I'm doing right now. And we will dye. Okay, that's it. I'm done. We're getting the light gray wool and we're moving on. So now that I have all the blocks collected, I'm going to be using some rock presets that I made to help me design and outline the shape of, again, the rock formations in the actual mining district themselves. I do want them to look natural, but I also want them to be kind of squared off in certain places to make it look like they have actually been mined out and like there are people actively working on them. And if you're interested in getting access to this rock pack, you can find it over on my Patreon. For just $3 a month, you get access to things like exclusive Discord roles, exclusive videos, and ad-free videos of all my hardcore content. And for just $10 a month, you get all of that, as well as access to all the schematics for everything I've ever made in hardcore Minecraft. So if you want to take your support to the next level, consider heading on over there because I've got some good stuff. I'd also like to give a big shout out to all my current Patreon and channel members. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to Arkeen, who has gifted the channel over 500 members in the past couple of weeks. And thank you to everybody else who has joined as well. I really appreciate it. And with most of the rock work done, this place is looking a lot cooler. Now, I've left an empty crevice in the side of the mountain here because I would eventually like to put like a cracked open amethyst geode in there. I think it would be pretty cool. And there may or may not also be some lore elements going on there with the amethyst crystals, but we'll get to that in another episode. For now, I need to start getting ready for the actual buildings that are going to be in this area. So we're going to start by getting some deep slate tiles ready for the roofs. And over the past couple of days, I've been live streaming a lot, and I actually collected a ton of dead coral blocks. So we're going to be using those as stone textures. And I also spent a lot of time during my lives mining dark oak wood in dark oak wood forest. So we're going to take some time here placing all of those logs down and converting them to their stripped variants. But with all the blocks ready to go, it's time to start building the first structures that are going to be going in this area, which is actually some medieval kind of almost townhouse looking buildings, and I'm going to have these lining the right portion of the area here, and this is meant to be the residential part of the mining district. So the story of the world goes that this area is so rich in resources that the villagers have basically been mining here for years. So in order to make the process more efficiently, they decided to move a bunch of the blacksmith and miner villagers right to the mining district and set up kind of temporary housing for them, so they don't have to walk very far to and from their actual homes and their jobs. They're just right there when they need to be. I think it's a really fun way to add some story to the world while also adding a cool visual element to this place. I think these things look really cool now that they're done. I'm saving all of the finer details for more towards the end of the video. I'm going to basically build up all of the skeletons of the buildings first, and then I'm going to go back in and add, flower boxes, windows, things like that later. But for now, we're going to start working on the pathway that's right outside of the houses here. And I'm going to do that by just knocking this hill back a bit, adding in some path blocks and some coarse dirt, and just overall shaping up the area. I'd also like to add a couple of stone staircases leading up to some of the entrances of the townhouses, just to give us more layers to work with. And as we go along, I'm also going to be adding some spruce slabs and some spruce trap doors to make the experience of walking up and down the hill a little bit smoother. It's not going to be perfect because it's so steep. We are still going to have to jump in certain spots, but this will definitely help make it look better and feel quite a bit smoother. I'm also going to be adding some fences in some places as well, where the pathway is kind of really high off the ground to protect anybody from, well, obviously falling off and plummeting to their death, because that wouldn't be great. And I do plan to actually have villagers here, so this needs to be dummy proof eventually too. This is the first step of that. And there we go. I think that adds a lot. That looks really good. I'm happy with the way this is going. But now it's time to get started on the next structure which we're going to be building, and this structure is actually one of my most favorite builds that I've ever designed. I know I say that about a lot of my builds, but as far as, small-ish little houses go, this is definitely my favorite one. And so not only is this going to be the primary entrance to our main mine shaft, but off to the right, we're also going to have this absolutely massive forge area with these really tall smokestacks, and eventually we are going to place a super smelter inside there. And you guys will see at the end of this, I think it turns out really cool. All right, yeah, that is definitely a really good start. I love how the smokestacks kind of blend into the rocks. I really wanted to make it look like this building was kind of carved out of the mountain, and then some wood and other blocks were just kind of placed on top of it, and I think I got that look down pretty well. But the only problem is that I only designed the front of it and not the back. So we have this big open space on the back here that we need to come in with some of our other blocks, and we need to, one, complete the roof, and then we need to add some more little details with some rock work to make it all blend seamlessly together. But we'll just bring the roof across in the back here using some more deep slate tiles and cobbled deep slate stairs, and then we will fill in the empty part of the roof with some calcite and diorite and stripped dark oak wood, and then we can put in some of the smaller details. But there we go, I think that looks good. Now what I want to do is actually come over to the smokestacks here and use some walls to help create more of a chimney look. We're eventually going to have campfires with hay bales under them, so we actually get proper smokestacks, but we're going to leave it for now. And with that, I also want to come down to the mine entrance here and hollow out a bit more of a hallway and just get it shaped up a little bit better. It's not going to stay like this forever, but for now I think it'll do. All right, and that should be good for the moment. I'm going to leave some of the other smaller decorations, like including buttons and fences for windows and scaffolding for windows and things like that, more towards the end of the video, but this place is definitely coming along now. Now, the next building I'm going to make is another smaller smaller forge off to the right below the residential area. Now this time I actually decided to include an outdoor forge. This way we could have some lava or magma blocks kind of lighting up that area and being visible from outside. And I also really liked the look of this build that I came up with. I added a little balcony on the front as well as a kind of secondary house off to the right. And again, I think it works pretty well and looks almost seamless with the terrain. All right, and with that done, we're moving on to the next portion of this side of the project, which is actually touching up some of the rock work around the outdoor forge. I do like the rock work I came up with along the outer edges of the trench, but a lot of the rocks run too close to the entrances to the buildings and to the forges themselves, so we have to remove them in some places to make sure we can actually traverse this area and get to where we need to go. But fortunately, that shouldn't take too long. And speaking of traversing the area, I'm now going to mark out the next place we're going to have a bunch of pathways, and I kind of want the pathways to loop around the entire secondary level here. I think that would look pretty cool. It's also going to add a bit more color to the area. It's going to break up all the blacks and grays that we have, and it's going to add in some lighter tones of brown. I mean, we already have a bunch of light tones with brown, but the ground right now feels way too smooth to be a natural mining area, so we're going to try to break it up with this. And I'm going to be using the same pathway I used on the right side of the build with regular coarse dirt, some path blocks, but I'm also going to be throwing in some packed mud in places as well, and eventually I may also add some cobblestone and andesite just to give us more texture. Now on the outer edge of this pathway, especially near the water, I'm going to be replacing all of the grass with stone because I really want it to look like that there's basically nothing growing in this area because there's just so much work being done, so many people walking everywhere, rocks being dragged from place to place. It would make sense that no grass could grow here. There we go. I think that is a pretty decent start. I'm definitely liking the way this looks a lot more. We're also eventually going to have some buildings down on the bottom here, so I'm not too worried about the area looking flat. We actually need it to be flat. This is one of the only times I actually see super smooth terrain as a good thing. But now we'll just come to the back portion of the mining area here, and we'll make the same pathway design looping around the entire area. All right, so this is looking a lot better, and it's really starting to look cool. I'm getting very excited. So now what I want to do is come to the top of the area here and build a bit of a platform and start connecting it with some stripped spruce logs. This is going to be a giant piece of scaffolding. I debated having this be a lift, but I think I'm actually just going to have this be a giant enclosed stairway. That way we can have a bunch of different levels to this thing to access different areas of the mine, and we'll have a simple way to walk from the top to the bottom and vice versa of the mining area without actually having to walk through the residential district. But now that we got all the support pillars in place, I'm going to attempt to work upwards in kind of a broken spiral type of shape with slabs for our stairs. It's not going to be perfectly consistent. I also kind of want this to look like it was just thrown together. So there are going to be some places that are uneven, but it will generally follow the same pattern all the way to the top. And now that that's done, I'm going to come in and use a bunch of staircases to create some diagonal kind of support looking beams. And then I'm going to take some fences and place them all in between those support beams to add, again, more support. I want this to look very chaotic, like there's a bunch of things going on, and I think this will look cool. I hope this will look cool. This is one of those times where I didn't design things beforehand, so I'm kind of just winging it as I go along. Hopefully this turns out well. We'll see. We'll just see. Let me get back to it. Okay, that actually doesn't look that bad. I think it looks a little bulky for right now, but once we start adding other things around it again, I think it's going to work pretty well. I also still have to decorate and detail it, so that is a factor we have to consider as well. But for now, I'm going to head to the top of the scaffolding, and I'm going to build a railing out of oak fences, spruce fences, and spruce trapdoors. And so before we finish up on the finer details of this thing, I want to come down to about a quarter of the way up, and I want to start building out a little platform here where some more mining villagers are going to be building on, and I want to make it look like they have extended the scaffolding outwards on this level a little bit to help them access the giant amethyst geode that we're going to have going here. So I'm just going to cover this in spruce trapdoors, and then I'm going to add some fences for support pillars, and I'm actually going to add 2 in a row here to hopefully make it look like there's some kind of ladder going up to this thing. And then I'm going to throw in some fence gates for some more support. And in addition to that, I'm going to come in with some oak trapdoors to add some variation in the texture of the platforms. But there we go. I think that looks decent for now. It's definitely helping to add to the shape of the scaffolding, so I'm happy with that. Now we're going to go back over to the scaffolding and add some things like trapdoors into the mix to help make it look a bit more realistic. And there we go. That actually did a lot for the build. I'm really starting to like this. Now up at the top here above the scaffolding, I want to include another little forge with a house attached to it. I was originally going to include a tavern here, but the tavern I designed in one of my live streams is actually way too big, which is really unfortunate because I really loved the design that me and Stream Chat came up with. So we're going to be saving that for another video, possibly including it in somewhere else in another town that we'll build on this island. But yeah, I've decided to replace it with what is going to be a little forge where the blacksmiths actually sell all of their weapons to people who are traveling by. Instead of weapons, I may actually have this be a hoe and shovel and pickaxe type of shop, because it would make sense that the majority of people who are traveling this road up at the top of the mining district live right near the farming area. So it would make sense if farming tools were sold here, but I'll get to designing the interior of this in another video because that's going to be a long process. For now, I'm just going to get both of the bases of the build started and go from there. But alright, with that little structure done, it's time to move on another part of this build, which is going to be taking place at the top here. And we are actually going to be building a crane. Now, this thing is meant to be here to lift all of the mined materials up from the bottom of the base up to the top, where again, they can be extracted, smelted down, and a bunch of other different things. Now, in the spirit of full disclosure, this is not my crane design, although it's also not 100% accurate to the original design that I found. And I have absolutely no idea whose base design this is. I actually just found an image on Google and it wasn't labeled as anything, and there were no links to any other kind of social media. So I have no idea who came up with the skeleton design of this crane. So I do apologize for taking your build, whoever you are. Of course, I am going to be making my own changes to it, so I'm not going to be directly copying, but you know, I gotta tell you guys, medieval machinery in particular is a category that I really need to work on. I still struggle with this a lot, which is astounding because a lot of the builds I make are medieval based, so you'd think I'd be better at designing my own machines at this point, but I am not. So there's definitely an area to be improved there. So there we go. I think that definitely fits the bill. So now what I'm going to do is quickly come back down to the bottom of the area here, and I'm going to start marking the foundations for what are going to be some more residential buildings and a storage building, actually. But with the foundations for these buildings set up, it's time to actually get to constructing them. Now, we're going to start on the main diagonal building here, which again is going to be the kind of storage house place. I don't know. Okay, so this is a little confusing. We're not actually going to be storing a lot of blocks in this small little place. This is mainly just going to be for decoration. We're going to store all of our stone blocks and stone type blocks elsewhere, but I still think this would look cool. So we're just going to keep raising this up a couple of blocks, and then we're going to get into building the rest of it and raising up the other two little houses that we have over here, which are going to be where more villagers live. that, I want to move over to the left side of the mining district here, and I want to add another pathway leading up to the top of the base. And in order to make this pathway stand out, we're going to have to add some more rocks behind the main forge to kind of cover up the remainder of the grass blocks. And then we're just going to come in again with some more path blocks and coarse dirt for the actual walkway itself. And I'm also going to do some terraforming over to the left here, but I am going to leave a little bit more grass on this side since it is more towards the area of the fishing village. So I think some smaller rock formations with grass and possibly moss growing on top of them would look better for this portion of the build. And I gotta be honest, the shape of the hill, especially down towards the bottom here, isn't exactly what I need, so we're definitely going to be doing a bit more terraforming, raising the land up in some places and then pushing it back in others. And then, of course, you know, we have to come in with some spruce slabs and some spruce trapdoors to help make the transition of the walkway a lot smoother. But I gotta tell you, that actually, when I was building that, it didn't feel right, but it looks really good from above. I love the way that this is all kind of turning into a giant oval or a giant circle. I'm liking it. But with that right portion of the walkway handled, we now need to tackle the rest of this grassy area down at the bottom. And I gotta be honest, I really don't like how it bulges out the way it does. So we're actually going to knock down the retaining wall on the left side that prevents us from getting to the fishing village. And we're going to completely clear out all the grass and dirt and begin raising up another pathway. And in between these two pathways, eventually at some point today, we're going to add in another little mining area with perhaps maybe a bunch of coal or iron being extracted. All right, so taking a break real quick from working on the pathways, I have managed to complete these 3 little outdoor forges here again. I really like the way these look. The diagonal one isn't great, but we're just going to ignore it. We're not really going to be able to see all the fine details when we're just walking by quickly or looking at this place from far away, so I'm going to stick with it for now. But I do still quickly have to connect them to the ground, but that shouldn't take long. And with that done and my energy for building mines restored, we can move back over to this other little mining area that we just made, and we can start placing in some more scaffolding and some more staircases. And this time around, I'm actually going to use campfires as the scaffolding to try that out and see what it looks like, which I can tell you right now, it's already looking a lot cooler. And we're just going to do this in a couple of places to add more life to the build. I'm also going to throw some barrels down on the ground as well, and I'm going to throw in some patches of coal ore to make it look like the villagers have built up to the coal because they're trying to mine it and extract it. But there we go. I think this looks really good. Who would have thought that this tiny little area off to the left side here would add so much to the build? But now it's time to do what I've been waiting for the entirety of this project, which is going out and finding some amethyst geodes so we can collect amethyst to make an even bigger amethyst geode in the side of the mountain. Now, I have done so much mining in this world that I do know where 2 geodes are located. However, I don't know if this is going to be nearly enough amethyst for us to complete the project. But we're going to start by mining out the first one, and then we'll build with the blocks we have. And if we don't have enough, we can go out and locate the second one and use that one's resources to complete the project. We shouldn't honestly need more than 2. I'm really hoping we don't need more than 2, but we'll play by ear and see how things go. All right, so with the first amethyst geode done, we're going to start working on the bigger rock here, and we're going to take some of the smooth basalt we got and make an outline around the area. I really want it to look like that this geode has just been cracked open by blast mining. I think that would look pretty cool. So yeah, we'll just start with an outline of 1 or 2 blocks of smooth basalt. Then we can work our way inside a little bit and start adding a layer of calcite that's been built up. And then finally, we can start replacing all of these blocks on the interior here with amethyst. And now eventually I would like to build my own custom cave biome, and I would actually like this geode to be the entrance of it. I'm not sure when I'll be able to get to this project. I'm sure it's still a few months out, but a custom cave biome completely based around amethyst would be really, really cool. And there's also some lore with the amethyst in this world, so I think it would make sense if the majority of this island was above a bunch of giant amethyst geodes. And the way I'm explaining the story is that the amethyst is actually what gives the wizards and everybody who lives here their magical abilities. The entire island is meant to be built on a giant, like, amethyst meteorite, so I think that would be pretty cool if we actually did add some custom biomes that were just nothing but giant amethyst clusters everywhere. But that is a very ambitious project and definitely a ways away. But anyways, I think this thing looks pretty good. In fact, it looks really good. Now, unfortunately, as good as this looks, we do not have enough amethyst, so we have to go out and find the other amethyst geode, collect all of its resources, and then head back home to continue working. But with that done, the next thing I want to do is head to the bottom of the giant trench we made, and I actually want to have a bunch more amethyst geodes kind of weaving in and out in kind of like a serpent-shaped pattern all throughout the bottom of the build. So we're going to use all that brand new amethyst that we just got to do that. And then we're also going to completely cover the floor in some custom terrain. We're going to be throwing in a bunch of different slabs and stairs and different rock variants like cobblestone and andesite to make it look like the bottom of the ravine is actively being mined out, and so there will be a bunch of inconsistent patterns and weird shapes in the rocks. And there we go. I think that's a good start. We still have to add all the other amethyst geodes, but as far as texturing goes, this is looking pretty good. But as good as it looks, it could always look better, so we're going to finish adding all those extra geodes that I was just talking about, and then we can get to working on some other stuff. And by working on some other stuff, I mean adding some more scaffolding over to this portion of the ravine here. We're going to build it up in the same manner that we did with the bigger one, but this one's going to be a bit more janky looking and a bit more open. It's gonna look more dangerous, basically. We're not going to have it completely covered in. We're just gonna use fences and fence gates to kind of provide a little bit of a railing every now and again. And then on a couple of different levels here, we're going to come in with some more scaffolding, both made out of campfires and trapdoors. We're also just going to build up a couple more of these scaffolding places in other areas around the bottom of the ravine. And I also want to come across the center of the area here and build what looks like a bridge for minecarts. And I plan to add actual moving minecarts to this thing. I think it would be really neat to have a moving element in this build. I would honestly like to do a bunch of these, but I don't think I have the time. I am running out of time for this video, so we'll have to save that for something else. But this one giant bridge should suffice for now. And so now, finally coming into the home stretch of this build, I'm going to add a little bit of another scaffolding staircase that kind of runs along the side of one of these bigger geodes. I think this would look pretty cool and add a bit of a unique shape to the area as well. But once this is done, the area is basically going to be complete. So the last thing we'll have to do is just come in with a bunch of little small decorations and details and finish rounding out the build. And I'll most likely do that in a live stream or off camera, so I'm going to go ahead and get that started, and I will come back to you guys with the build complete. And so that is going to do it for today's episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I went around the base adding a bunch of new things. I even added like a little foreman's house down at the bottom of the ravine, a couple of little bridges like leading over the amethyst clusters, added some TNT with some red candles to look like dynamite, a bunch of barrels and ores thrown all over the place, some minecart tracks, and I did add the moving minecart just like I wanted, and I think it turned out great. Now again, I know the interiors of these buildings buildings are not done, and for a lot of you that's going to be pretty disappointing, but we will be doing all of these interiors during my live stream, so keep that in mind and make sure you have your channel notifications on. Also, if you haven't already and you really enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. We are so close to hitting 100,000, and we could hit it before the end of 2024. It's unlikely at this point, but there's still a chance that if everybody watching right now hits that subscribe button, we could make it. But regardless of whether or not we make it for the end of the year, I want to thank you all so much for providing me with this opportunity. Becoming a full-time YouTuber is almost a reality for me. It's just around the corner, and this is a dream that I've been chasing for over 10 years. So to finally be right there, to have that goal within my grasp is a very surreal feeling. So thank you for everything that you have done for me, and I really truly do hope that my content is enough to repay you for what you've done. But once again, I hope you all have enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, but I gotta get going because I've got more work to do.